Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. So today, check this out. We got something really cool. I finally got a hold of a Phantom 4 Pro quadcopter from DJI, and I wanted to go ahead and do a full review on this one. I've had some experience. If you're familiar with my channel, I've done Phantom 2, Phantom 3 standard, a Phantom 4, and also now just recently done a full-on Mavic, DJI Pro Mavic review. And now I wanted to delve into the Phantom 4 Pro. This one's supposed to be quite a bit better than the Phantom 4. It's got more sensors, it's got a better camera, and we're gonna just see how well this thing does. So I may split this into a multi-part series of videos. This may just be the unboxing and setup and inspection. We'll see how far we get in this one. If it's taking too long, I'll just go ahead and split it up and do the flight test in the next video. So anyway, let's just kind of jump right in and unbox this thing. Just like all the other Phantom 4s, the original Phantom 4, this one comes with this kind of foam case here, and it's actually a pretty good case. You know, a lot of people are like, oh, it's too weak, and I find it very durable and very good. Some people have also done some mods on the case to actually make it more durable by coating it with like some of that rubber paint coating and stuff. But also there's backpacks and stuff available. I did get a DJI backpack as well. But this has just like a flip lock type of deal where you pull out this latch, spin the lock open, and then open it up just like the standard Phantom 4. So here's the box. We're just greeted with the Phantom 4 Pro here, and just in the same exact about orientation as the original Phantom was. We can see that we have the main unit here. The battery's already in here. We have the controller here. Now the Phantom 4 Pro is not the Plus version, is the version that has the screen clamp still, so you have to use your cell phone or tablet here to see the FPV. I do have the Phantom 4 Plus as well, so I'll be reviewing that afterwards. After I'm done with this review, I'll go ahead and jump over to that review in a little while and get that one done as well. That one has the touch screen on the controller where you don't have to clamp on your own phone. It's all built in already. So first up, just going to pull out the Phantom 4 Pro here, set that on the side. Here's the instruction and the reading materials. Here's a bag of, it looks like 8 propellers. It's just one single silver bag, and looks like it's feeling like 8 propellers, but we'll open that up in just a second. Here is the controller. So looking like the same basic type of controller as the Phantom 4 was. You've got, you know, 2 sticks, 2 buttons, and then it looks like all the same buttons on the top, and then you have these 2 antennas. There's a screen clamp there. Here is the wall charger. So this is the main charging brick. You can see that there are 2 connectors. There's one for the controller, and there's also one for the battery there. So you can do both the controller and the battery charging at one time. And this is just the adapter that plugs into your wall from the brick. And really the only other things we have left in the package is this. There's nothing in here, but this can store, it looks like 2 extra batteries in there. And then we just have 2 other wires down in here. I'm gonna go ahead and put this to the side. And they're giving us a micro USB cable. If you do have like an Apple iPod or iPad, you should have got the same connector that goes with your peripheral in that box, so you can also use that. And then here's an adapter if for some reason you have to connect from your tablet directly to the craft. They give you this little, you know, pigtail connector so you can have the micro SD on both sides. Basically the craft has a micro USB connector in it, so if you ever have to do any updates where you have to connect to the craft, you know, this is the craft side, and then you can extend your USB from whatever device you're using into here. Usually the Phantom 4s, they usually have all their updates can be done through the app from the software and wirelessly to the quadcopter. So you don't really need to do that. With the Phantom 4, I had to do one update and physically connect the cables the first time I booted up, but they may have taken care of that, and we'll see if that's the case in this one. Anyway guys, so that really is everything in the box, what we have right in front of us here. And let's just go ahead and open up a couple more of these items and just see more in detail of what we get. Like I was thinking, we do get 8 propellers in here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So you got 2 sets. So good on DJI for giving, you know, 2 sets of propellers. They should really, quad manufacturers should be doing that for all their products. You know, just in case you get in a little scuffle with your blades, you're not out of commission until you order some new ones. So that's awesome when companies do that. And just a little bit of a closer look on the charger. Nothing really to look at, but I just want to show you how it does have this, you know, nice scratch proof extra packaging they do just to make sure in shipping you're not scratching up your items. So I'm just going to take all this off in front of you quickly as possible. And of course, you know, this is the power brick and there's the plug to your wall, so that just plugs in there and then to your wall. And I really like how DJI did this. Of course, you can order more hubs to charge more batteries at one time, but it's really cool how they allow you to charge they just split it off like in a Y here, and they allow you to charge your battery and your controller right off this little Y pigtail. That way you're not unplugging after your craft's done and then plugging in again to charge your controller. You can do both at once. So I really like how they've done that, and they started doing that with the Phantom 4, I believe, and I'm not sure if they did that with the Phantom 3 Pro versions. And here's the craft. So, you know, very similar. It looks almost exactly the same as the Phantom 4, except you've got more sensors on it. So we can see right off the bat, here's the side here. This is the left side if you're facing forward. And here are some sensor pickups. So I believe these sides are infrared sensors. They're just going to be sensing, you know, obstacles on the side. So I'm just taking off this protective coating. There already is a card in here, and it looks like this is a 16 gigabyte Sony Class 10 card. So, you know, you're ready to go for, you know, at least a little bit of footage. You definitely, if you're going to be doing some long flights and recording in like 4K, you are definitely going to be needing a bigger card. So I'd recommend getting a larger card right away. There's this little bungee here on this arm, and it's just saying danger, you know, moving parts can cut, keep hands clear. Just a little warning card there. And I don't know if you can see this, but this is all in Chinese, these little warning stickers here. And that's just kind of telling you how to mount the propeller. So I'm going to take off these little stickers. This did come from a Chinese company, GearBest, and so maybe this is like the Chinese version, but they should be pretty much the same. It's just some of the labeling is going to be in Chinese here. So I'd recommend definitely take these off before you fly. You know, they're just like these little silicone stickers, but any kind of drag on your arms when you're flying will definitely lessen your flight time, so I'd recommend taking those off. Here's the other side. So there's two sensors on the left side and then two sensors on the right side. I'm trying to remember what this thing has, like if one of them is a infrared and one of them's like a proximity. I kind of forget what these are, but regardless, it can detect, you know, side, rear, and front and bottom. And then on the arms, we can see that we do have the front sensors on the arms, and that's what the Phantom 4 had. So the Phantom 4 only had the front and the bottom sensors, but here's the difference. Phantom 4 Pro, side sensors, everything else looks the same pretty much in here. You know, we've got our micro USB here, and we have our memory card slot there. So that hasn't really changed since the Phantom 4. But check this out. So this is a big change. We have sensors in the rear now. Phantom 4 regular didn't have this. And then of course, as you've already seen on the other side, there's the side sensors, which the Phantom 4 did not have. Spinning it over to the bottom, I'm noticing a little bit difference right off the bat in the arms. You see how we have this aluminum in here? The Phantom 4 version, the regular version, had like this screen mesh in here. So this is a little bit different. It's just basically not having that screen mesh anymore, and it looks like a larger port here. Maybe they weren't getting enough air in, and it was, you know, this one's getting a little bit hotter, so they really want to let the air in there. So there's just a couple of aluminum, you know, frame blockages here, little inlets that look like they're going to really suck in a lot of air. And then very similar, this looks like almost exactly like the bottom of the regular Phantom 4, where we have two sensors here on the bottom. And these are the camera sensors for sensing the ground, and also we have the sonic sensors. So these are kind of like sonar, where they can detect the ground. They're shooting out signal and it's bouncing back, and they're figuring out how far the ground is. But it looks very similar. We have the venting here for cooling on the bottom. I think this is magnesium, if I remember correctly, the frame on this one. And that gets us over to kind of the last part of the craft, which is the gimbal. And it looks like on the front of this little gimbal protector, it's just got this little, you know, scratch proof guard just in case for that as well, for shipping. Of course you could leave that on if you wanted to. But I'm just going to rotate it around here because I see this piece of foam here and it's saying to remove this before flight. So this is just like a shipping, it's, you know, a shipping brace, and you're definitely going to want to pull this out right away. Looks like maybe if you wanted to, extra security and transport, go ahead and slide that back in. I don't remember seeing this in the regular Phantom 4, so maybe this was an added shipping security recently in this version. Spinning it around to look at the gimbal. So I'm going to go ahead and take off this gimbal guard here. And all you do, like I said, is you just pop off this plastic piece. And you can see on the bottom of the feet, it does have these rubber, really grippy landing skids here on the bottom of the landing skid. This is really grippy rubber. And there's these two little notches. So when you are putting back on your gimbal guard, just make sure that it falls within those two notches, and then you should be lined up good. But anyway, here's the camera. So man, the Phantom 4 series really has a great gimbal and camera built in all into one. Now this is supposed to be quite a bit better than the Phantom 4 camera. It does, I'm not sure if it's maybe a little bit larger. I can't really tell unless they were side by side. I wouldn't be really able to tell, but it does look maybe a tad bit more bulky for some reason. I don't know, maybe I'm just used to the DJI Mavic. But same type of top quality. You know, we have our pitch axis here, we have our roll axis, and we have our yaw axis here, left and right. See that? So fully integrated camera, does 4K. I think this one does 60 frames per second. And you get a much better lens, much better sensor. The way this thing can dampen the vibrations is just unbelievable to me. You know, having everything kind of built in this compact into one little camera gimbal. DJI does an amazing job at really giving you smooth video, even in really hard wind and hard flying circumstances. It's really amazing to me how DJI can give you such good picture. Here's the motors. They look almost exactly the same as the standard Phantom 4. Same kind of twist clip here. They may have, you know, improved it a little bit. Maybe some more spring tension. I remember in the Phantom 4 I read some stuff where the springs after a while would wear out. So maybe they changed some of the stuff in there. Same type of looking light cups on the bottom here for flight orientation indication and mode indication when you are flying. So the battery looks like it's the same type of flight battery. Just push in the tabs here and pull the battery straight out, and here's the battery itself. They're giving you a lithium polymer high voltage battery, which is a little bit higher voltage than the normal 4S, and that gives you a little bit more power. And what's interesting with this one is they're bringing this one up to 5,870 milliamps. And what's curious is, you know, they're probably doing that because there's a little bit more weight from the added sensors on here, including the camera, the upgraded camera. So they're able to pack in more milliamp hours with the same form factor. This looks like it's exactly the same size. This is one on the left here, this gray one is a regular Phantom 4 battery, and the regular Phantom 4 was only a 5350 mAh milliamp hour battery. And you can see that they are exactly the same. These batteries are interchangeable between crafts. Same kind of venting on the side compared to the old battery here. I'm sure they've made a few more improvements in the internals, but externally it looks just exactly the same except for the white color and that difference in milliamp hour. Speaking of the battery, let's take a quick little look inside the battery bay, and really nothing different I can see right off the bat than the Phantom 4, regular Phantom 4 series. You know, all the way at the back you just have the standard proprietary battery connector, and then on the sides you can see some of the circuitry here behind that magnesium internal chassis. So really nothing to see here, but it's done pretty clean. You can see there is some venting here on the top to kind of dissipate all the heat. Phantom 4 series does have, you know, built-in fan, so you're going to hear that fan spin up when you boot them up, and that indicates that you are going to be getting that good airflow. Anyways, let's go ahead and slide this battery back in. You just want to make sure you have it oriented the right way, and that means that, you know, this larger portion up here is going to be facing the top. I think one time in my Phantom 4 standard review I actually tried to put it upside down, and it will slide in, but then you risk, you know, kind of bending some of the components and all that. So pop it in. Of course, you could pull in both tabs and push it in a little better, but it seems to pop in okay. And let's go ahead and pop over to the controller. Now I'm just going to quickly take off, you know, this protective coating here on the controller as well. DJI does a really good job at protecting their stuff during shipping. So very commendable for DJI. DJI is really good at doing that. But anyway, just pulling this thing off, and if you don't want to break this thing, you can always unscrew this little bracket here and then pull the plastic from underneath. But I'm just going to pull this thing out. It's okay if it kind of rips. I'm just going to go ahead and do that. Looks like from the DJI Phantom 4 original review I did, it looks like they changed the plastic a little bit. And I think the original one I reviewed just had like this sticky plastic all the way around on everything. So they did a little bit of a change on that. They still, I think it was like this plastic right here, yeah. So my last controller was wrapped in this kind of plastic. That you see how this is just kind of wrapped and stuck over everything on the mount here. Go ahead and take that off so you can see that. But this is how my last controller was with the Phantom 4. And that's all that is. It's not really a sticky, it's like a re-stick kind of plastic that just sticks on the flat surface. Is really good. But here it is. So we have those two pieces there that cover it up. And unfortunately in this one it doesn't look like they have upgraded even the Pro version with an HDMI out. So I do have that card here. I do have a card that I'm going to be replacing on this that does have an HDMI out here, so you can go from here with an HDMI cable and hook up to goggles similar to, say, these ones here. These are the Amway Commander V1 goggles, and you see how they have a little HDMI port on the bottom here. So if you want to go ahead and switch out that little module, you have the ability to plug right into your goggles and have like high definition 720p viewable output, or even something like these. These are the head play goggles, and these also have an HDMI port. See on the back, on the side here. So if you want to have that really immersive feel and fly FPV, you have the ability, if you do, go ahead and switch out that module on the back here. Anyways, the controller looks almost exactly the same. It actually looks exactly the same to me. I don't see any changes with any of the buttons, any of the rollers, or anything at all. This one here, this is like a little smart switch, and they have this little sticker on here just to let you know that these are advanced modes. All the way to the P is basically like position hold, where it's going to lock itself in the sky. If you let off the sticks, it's going to stay there. S mode is sport mode. The P mode does have all the sensors on, you know, those proximity sensors. The sport mode does take those sensors off, and it doesn't allow you to do obstacle avoidance, but it flies a lot faster. And then A is basically altitude hold mode, but you don't have that GPS position lock. You can fly a little bit more faster than P, but the quad is gonna it's gonna keep its level, but it's not going to lock in its horizontal position. So that's basically what that means. Then over here we have start and stop recording video. On this side we have taking pictures, and then we have a little pause button here, which is basically gonna, if you're in some kind of mode and you want to pause it, you just hit that pause and it will stop doing, like, say, a focus around point or follow me or whatever you have going. And then we have these two rollers here. This roller is going to be for controlling your camera gimbal. That's going to be rotating your camera up and down. This one here does not click in, but this one over here, this is going to be your exposure on the fly. Rolling this left and right, there's like a clicking and it just keeps rolling. And this, as you're flying, will adjust your exposure. If it's too light, if it's too dark, you can go ahead on the fly, and that will be directly seen in the video it takes and also on your FPV screen. I'm trying to remember what this does. I can't remember right off the bat, but this one does have a click in on the roller here. Over here on the bottom we have our trigger buttons here. So we have C2 and C1. Pitch the camera straight down or straight forward real quick. It just does a quick little, you press it once, it pitches down, choop, and then you press again and it pitches straight. Left trigger, I believe, stock from the factory, it's going to be going to like your camera settings. You can change these to whatever you want. They have this really good, nice and premium feeling, you know, really polished plastic feel, glossy plastic with these nice rubber accents that really feel good in the hands, and you can really feel the grip on them. Over here on the right we just have our power receptacle here, so you plug in that power cable in here and you can charge your battery. And of course here's the control sticks. So we've got our altitude, our yaw, our pitch, and our roll here. So if you're new to flying, that's what these sticks do. And you can notice that they both kind of self-center with a spring. And that means that if you're in like the P mode, position hold mode, that if you do let off the sticks, this thing will just lock itself in the air. It'll fight whatever it can to just stay in that position. And these crafts are really, really good at doing that, which you'll see in the flight test here. But anyway, power button, we hit it once and we see that we have our charge. We've got 3 bars right now. And if we go ahead and push it in again and hold it while that's up, it'll go ahead and turn on the controller. Then this is your return to home button. Real simple. All you have to do is press and hold it. You'll hear a couple of beeps and then it will constantly beep a few times, and that means it's in return to home. Last thing on the controller is going to be the phone/tablet holder, and DJI did a really good job with this one. They give it a really premium feel. You can see that it almost has this pneumatic feel to it when we do press the side button to release it. You see how it doesn't just spring really erratically, and nicely and easily opens up. We've got this foam padding here to grip in your device and protect it from scratching. We've got these little flip down things here. So if you wanted to put a phone, you put your phone in here, like a smaller phone, and you can go ahead. It has this ratchet system and it will lock your phone in. If you have a tablet, like a larger tablet like I do, you go ahead and you flip those things up and you can just put like your iPad right in there, no problem. You just make sure it's open all the way up, slap your tablet in, and then go ahead and push down kind of tight till you feel a couple of ratchets, and that screen is not going anywhere. So if you aren't using any kind of HDMI goggles with this and you don't need to switch out this module for the one with the HDMI output, you just use your Apple device plug that came with your Apple device, like this iPad here, and you just plug into the USB port and plug this directly into your device here like this on the bottom, and you're ready to go. Here's the articulation of the antennas. They only can rotate that far, and then they can rotate all the way in for collapsing down and storage. They can only rotate all the way straight out to the controller, and then they can actually rotate just about 90 degrees this way as well. So you don't want to be bending those around too much and breaking them. They do have limitations. Cool thing about this bracket here is this bracket gives you a lot of articulation. So I'm going to go ahead and give you an example of that right now. You see how I'm pushing it all the way forward? So for storage, you can go ahead and push that down. You're going to want to be careful of these sticks because look at that aluminum is touching the screen. So be careful if you have a tablet on there. Maybe put some padding or take your tablet off if you're going to be storing it like this. But that's the articulation that way. So when you are flying, you'll have, a lot of different positions. If the sun's in your way, there also are a few sunshades you can get for this. And the cool thing also about this little aluminum bracket is they've really gone the extra mile for quality on this. It looks like it really hasn't changed from the Phantom 4. You can unscrew this screw here, and you can also stick a screwdriver or flathead in here. And if you wanted to, for some reason, you can take off this whole bracket. And it's really easy to take off and put on for some reason. If you're storing it in a different bag or backpack and you didn't want to have this thing on, you can do that if you wanted to. Anyway guys, that pretty much wraps it up for the unboxing. Let's go ahead and just hook it up really quick, see if we need to do any updates, and I'll show you what it looks like on the iPad screen. Okay guys, so let's boot this thing up. So I went ahead and charged this battery. The battery was completely dead, so I gave it a full charge. You can see it has 4 LEDs lighting up there. So first thing we want to do is turn this thing on, and all we're doing is pushing in here one time and then clicking and holding to initialize the drone. So push in once, and you get the lights, and then push and hold till all 4 lights come up. I probably should have turned on the controller first, but I'm just going to go ahead and turn it on now, but the same way. Pushing and then pushing and holding should bring us up. You can see that the gimbal is initializing on the Phantom 4 Pro. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and open up the tablet here. You should get this screen when you initially boot up the drone, and all this is saying is to activate your Phantom 4 Pro. So I'm just hitting next. You do have to have a DJI Go account, so make sure you log in and download that DJI 4 Go app for whatever device you have. So I'm going to go ahead and agree and activate the aircraft. Okay, and then I'm just going to label, this is where you want to name your DJI aircraft, so I'm just going to name it P4 Pro. P4, go ahead and go space P-R-O. This is not the Pro Plus. I also have the Pro Plus I'll be reviewing soon, so I'm just going to call this the P4 Pro, and I'll call the put the plus on the Pro Plus. I want to be mode 2 default. You can see here it says what mode you want. Mode 2 default is what I'm usually used to with the throttle on the left. And it gives you a little diagram down here if you're unfamiliar with what that means. So continue. And I want to be going in imperial. I'm in the US and we use imperial feet and inches. And I want to also be in NTSC. You have the PAL option or metric, and yeah, different units. Unit of parameters, what they're calling it. So anyway, measurement units. Continue, and beginner mode. I'm going to turn beginner mode off. What it's saying here is it's limiting you if you are in beginner mode, if you have that on. It's limiting you to 30 meters high and 30 meters away from you, or 98 feet high and 98 feet away from you. It'll just hit a geo fence and it'll just stop there. I won't let you go any further. So leave that on if you're a beginner and you need some training so it doesn't get away from you. I'm turning that off since I'm not a beginner, I don't think. Anyways, confirming your account, sign in or create an account. So I'm going to sign into this real quick. That's going to be your DJI account. Okay, once you put in your sign-in information and your password, just go ahead and click activate. And you're going to want to make sure, of course, that you are connected to the internet, like in your house, Wi-Fi, or if you have a cellular connection. Infrared sensing system is only enabled in beginner mode and tripod mode. Wow, okay. Okay, so infrared is only in those two modes. That's good to know. So it looks like it has optical and infrared sensors. And initially, so it says we're activated, and right away it's saying update firmware. So I'm going to go ahead and click update firmware, and it looks like it's saying new firmware available, Phantom 4 Pro 1.03.0418. So I'm going to need to do that, it looks like. Connect your aircraft as indicated, and I thought I was going to be able to do this wirelessly, but I may need to connect that. So let me check if that's even necessary. Yeah, so it is not letting me go ahead and do anything wirelessly, so I am going to have to connect my tablet. So to do that, what you do is you unplug the cable from the controller, and you're using this little dongle that they gave us in the package. Remember, we were talking about that, to kind of be a little pigtail jumper straight to the aircraft. And it's forcing us to go ahead and plug in to the Phantom 4 Pro. So we're going to go ahead and plug in straight to that little micro USB slot on the edge there, on the side. And let's see what happens. Hopefully it's going to detect it. I'm going to go ahead and press OK. I did see this blue light up here. Went ahead and turned blue for a second, and now it turned red again. Let's go ahead and click update now again. There we go. So it got us into the update. It sensed that it is connected, and it's going to be 85 megabytes on this one. Make sure your battery's over 50% power, and do not leave the DJI Go 4 app. And it tells you an update log. All right, cool. I'd recommend going ahead and staying current with all the updates DJI pushes. So I'm gonna let that download. Looks like it's going pretty quick because I got a pretty fast connection. And let that install, and I'll get right back to you. Okay, so it finally said update complete. It did stop at 99% for quite a while, for like 5 to 10 minutes. It was just sitting there at 99%. So if you do get it stuck at 99% for a while, just go ahead and have patience and wait. I almost was ready to back out of the app, but I'm glad I waited because it did finally complete, and then the drone actually just rebooted, and we should be good to go. So I'm going to press OK on this update complete, and it's giving us green up here, update complete to go. What I've learned with these guys is after the update does complete, it's always good measure to go ahead and just restart everything. So I'm going to go ahead and power down the drone, disconnect the cable, reconnect everything correctly how it should be, and then power everything back up. Get the drone powered down, then go ahead and power off the controller. Same way. And then I go ahead and just get out of the app, close the app up, disconnect the Phantom 4 Pro, disconnect that little dongle they give you, reconnect it into your controller. Then we're ready to go ahead and start up again. What I did notice I missed is there's also a little bit of a protective coating on the DJI insignia, so I'm going to go ahead and take that off. Everything's powered down. What I want to do first is, usually what you should do first is power on your controller before you power on the craft. So controller on first, then we'll go ahead and power on the craft. That's actually how it should be done. And let it go ahead and initialize and sit there and wait till it's connected. You can see that there is a little bit of a red light here, and then it turns green when it is connected to the craft, when your transmitter is connected. Then if your DJI Go 4 doesn't launch automatically, just go ahead and go into the app. It used to launch automatically before, but it doesn't seem to be doing that anymore for some reason. And immediately, when everything is ready to go, it goes to this screen here. So we can see that we do have a kind of a home screen for DJI, and this is kind of our aircraft status screen, I guess they're calling it. It is saying firmware upgrade required, so it may need to do another upgrade since this is brand new. This is the first time I've booted it up. It may have needed that initial firmware upgrade, and now we can probably do it wirelessly through the app. But anyway, I'm just going to go through this menu. I'm not going to do any calibrations right now in this video, but it's very self-explanatory. Say if you do want to calibrate your compass and stuff, you see how it says calibrate right here. You just go press calibrate, you press OK, and then it just shows you like a diagram of what to do, how to tilt the craft and do the spinning in circles and stuff until it calibrates that compass. Very simple, very easy. Same with the IMU. So you can hear that the home point has been updated. That means it got enough satellites to lock itself in for a home point. But I want to check out what's up with this firmware upgrade on top. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that and see what's up. So it is saying download firmware. So it looks like there was another firmware to go ahead and update. So I'll go ahead and do that. So you can see there on the screen how it is saying updating remote controller. So you're going to get those occasional updates where it needs to update the firmware in here for everything to work correctly, as well as in the craft. So go ahead and let that update, and then hopefully we can get to our main screen and we can look at the video, the latency, and some more of the on-screen buttons. Okay guys, so that took about maybe 3 to 5 minutes and upgraded from version 1.01.03 to 01.04 on this controller. And it's telling me to reboot your controller. But you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and just reboot the whole system again. Good practice. Anytime there's an update on either item, just reboot everything. So I'm going to go ahead and shut down the controller. Shut down the craft. And get out of the app again. Get all the way out. Make sure you go ahead and just close the app as well. And then start over again, controller first. There we go. Okay, so overall status, we saw that little bit of a upgrade icon there went away. Now it's just normal. We don't need to do any more updating. We have all our status here. We have our compass, IMU, ESC status, vision sensors are all normal, remote controller mode 2, remote controller batteries at 52%, radio control quality, it was poor, now it's good. Looks like it went ahead and auto found the best channel for the interference around here. And that's kind of cool because that's kind of the built-in auto scan DJI has for its control. It's back to poor. Maybe quite a bit of interference in here or something. Yeah, it's saying strong interference detected, be careful when flying long distances. So I'm in the house, you know, there's some interference in here, that's what that's about. It's saying home point has been updated again, and that's interesting because I am in the house, but apparently it's getting enough satellites in the house even. Saying our aircraft batteries at 91%, aircraft battery temperature 43 degrees Celsius, gimbal status normal, and remaining capacity for the micro SD card is 15 gigabytes. I'm going to go ahead and just format that for good measure. I always like to do that. Format it on the SD card before I do start this thing off. So we're good to go, and then we can do C1, C2 button customization like I was talking to before, those trigger buttons on the bottom of the remote controller if we wanted to. Cool, so don't need to do anything right now. I want to X out of this, and here we go. So check this out. So now we have vision sensors on the side indicators, on the back and the front. With the Phantom 4 Standard Edition, all we saw was this bar on the front, but now I'm seeing one on the back, and I'm not seeing anything on the sides. In tripod mode is when it turns on the side sensors apparently. So be careful of that. If you want to fly around and you think all the sensors are working, they may not be working on the side unless you're in a certain mode. So that's something to definitely research. Anyway, we have our FPV here. Let me go ahead and just kind of move this around so you can see the latency. So I'm pretty sure that this should be using that new technology, not the light bridge. It should be using the technology that the Mavic Pro uses now for the FPV. So we should have a shorter latency. That's not bad at all. That's like maybe 100 milliseconds, if even that. So really good, but of course we are very close, and we're getting a really good high definition picture here. Then of course, if you have your warning zones on, it's telling you you're in a warning zone. I think I'm in like the really far warning zone from the airport, which is more than 5 miles away. There's also warning zones like that. We can see if you've never seen the DJI 4 Go app before, booted up, we've got a lot of information. We're in camera mode, so we can take a picture by just pressing the shutter or pressing the picture button here on the remote. So you have all those options on the way to do things. I just clicked in the right trigger and it lets me change my ISO manually if I wanted to. Right click it again, and it shuts that off. And then it goes to EV. You see how I'm changing the EV, and here's the exposure actually. So you can see it getting brighter as I go to the right, and as I roll to the left on this roller, you see how dark it's getting. So definitely do that within your flight if you want to get the best, if lighting changes and you want to get the best shots, you can go ahead and do that manually. Over here on the bottom, this is great because it's showing us our telemetry. It's showing us a little radar on the map, which direction we're facing, compared to north. So I'm over there facing like northwest here. The craft is facing that way, so it looks like the compass is working properly because that is the way I'm facing. So it's showing us distance from home. It's a little bit off, probably because it's not calibrated and we're indoors. The GPS is not really getting a good lock. It can show us our height, our horizontal speed in mile per hour, our vertical speed mile per hour, since I chose the Imperial setting at startup. We can press this button and go ahead and go to the camera, the video camera. So this is the video camera, start and stop recording, and all the settings that it's included. You've got a whole slew of settings. I'm not going to go through them all, but you have a lot of stuff to choose from here. If we go into the settings up here, we can do, front LEDs turn off or on, lock gimbal. We have all this stuff, video caption, autofocus assistant, manual focus assistant. We have grids, we have center points, anti-flicker, it's on auto, file index mode, camera settings. You can format the SD card from here as well. And then you have all these custom camera settings, like say for different styles of shooting or for different lights variances during the day. And then for video size, by default, it looks like it's on 4K 30 frames per second. And we can choose 60 frames per second on 4K. So 3840 by 2160, we can do 24, 30, 48, or 60. And then if we go one up here, 4096 by 2160, we also can choose up to 60 frames per second. So a whole lot of stuff you can do up at the top bar here. I guess we should go over this real quick also. I will be going over this kind of in our flight test, but you've got craft battery, 87%. You have your HD signal is at 2.4 gigahertz for our video right now. And you can see the signal bars is showing us how strong that signal is. Controller signal bars, very strong right now. This one up here just means that we have the, obstacle avoidance sensors on. This one here is showing us we have 10 satellites in the house here. And it is on, the GPS is locked. So I just pressed on GPS and we're going into the main controller settings. So this is your flight controller. You have to turn on multiple flight modes to use that change out of the position hold. If you want to use sport mode or just altitude hold mode, you have to make sure that's checked. I think the return to home at 30 meters, which is 98 feet, I usually like to bump that up a little bit just in case there's a real tall tree or a real tall building that it needs to come back at, it won't hit that. Of course, this has obstacle avoidance, but I usually like to go maybe around 50 meters at least when I'm going ahead and setting my return to home height. And that means that when you lose signal or you hit return to home, or it does a smart return to home on battery low, it will go up that amount of feet or meters until it comes back, just to avoid some obstacles, and it tells you all about that here. Max flight altitude right now, it's set at 120 meters, and that should be under 400 feet FAA regulation. Of course, you can always, if you really needed to, you can always go ahead and up that to 500 meters just by pressing in the box, and you hit done. It gives you this little disclaimer here: altering the max altitude may violate local laws, so make sure you are in accordance to your local laws and stuff. Or if you have special licenses or whatever, commercial licenses, you can at least alter that. Anyways, a whole bunch of other stuff: exponential sensitivity, gain, sensors, remote control, lost. If the signal breaks, it's set to return to home. Smart return to home is just going to tell you if how much battery power it has left in accordance to your home position and how much it's going to take. There's going to be that little slider bar on top, and it will return to home unless you cancel that. It'll automatically notify you when it only has enough battery to return to home, and it will automatically return to home. So that's a great feature for those of you who are worried about losing your craft. It's smart like that. Stop motor method, you can set that. Right now, default, it's set for throttle stick down and right, and also holding in the home button. So that will shut off the throttle in the air, so be very careful with that if you do have this enabled. Otherwise, your craft could drop out of the sky. Anyway, a bunch of other stuff. We've got all these different modes, and we'll go more into this into the flight test. I don't want to go into all this stuff right now, but here's where you can set your trigger buttons here if you want them to do something else. And then it's showing the HD interference on all the HD channels here. Right now it's at 2.4 gigahertz. It looks like you can switch it to 5.8, or it should auto switch depending on the interference. Here's our battery here. It tells you how many times it's been charged. Since this is the first charge, it's still saying 0. Remaining power in milliamp hours. Total capacity, this one's at 5992 and it's at 5093. Remaining power, voltage, temperature, it's got all this stuff. So really smart craft here with all this information. Really awesome the way DJI does all this with their smart batteries. You got a low battery warning at 30% where the thing will start beeping and telling you to come back. Critical low battery at 10% where it will just actually start to land so you don't entirely trash your batteries. And then it has total flight time, and then you got some advanced settings here with how to discharge your battery. If you just let your battery kind of sit there, it will discharge in 10 days to storage charge. So that's great that this also has that feature, so you'll never really screw up your batteries. And here's gimbal settings you can adjust. You can adjust gimbal roll. You can do a gimbal auto calibration. So it's probably good to do the compass, the IMU, and the gimbal auto calibration, and if not, the camera calibration when you first get your Pro or any other DJI devices. They should have done that at the factory, but it never hurts just to do that one last time so you know everything's being done right in case they miss something at the factory. So when you do start to fly, you're not disappointed and you have to go back and do those calibrations. Anyway, more settings, all kinds of stuff here. I'm not going to go through all this, but it's got a lot of settings in here. You've got launch, return to home, icons on the touchscreen as well as you can do them on the controller. Oh, forgot to click on the map. One more thing, sorry. So we click on that map, and this is Here Maps or Google Maps. I think they were in transition from Google to Here Maps. I'm not sure if they've switched back or not, but anyway, here is your map. You can either do satellite imagery. You can click on this icon and you can have standard if you wanted to with street names, or just the satellite without street names. And that's pretty cool to have. If you're in your area and say you're flying long distances, at least you can look at the terrain and see if maybe there's a big tree in the way or buildings, or making sure that if you are flying strictly FPV, see how you can see your little FPV screen as well as the big map screen when you switch those over. This is great because you can see if you're flying over any houses. You don't want to fly over houses normally, so I would recommend just flying where there's no houses. Just in case you have a catastrophic failure, don't fly over any houses, people, businesses, in case your crash goes down, you don't want it to land on anybody's head or house or property. You know, unless you have permission, don't fly over anybody. And that was a lot of information. I know it was long, but that's a lot of information that you guys have to soak in there. Anyway, guys, I think that's going to do it. I hope you enjoyed that. Don't forget to check out the link down there in the description. I will have the Phantom 4 Pro down in there where you can click on that link and check out the current pricing, description, more of the specs. And I do a lot of videos like this. That flight test is going to be coming up next real soon. I kind of ran long on this video, so I don't want to make this a huge video of the flight test as well. So we'll go ahead and cut it short here and watch out for that flight test coming up. When that is finished, I'll go ahead and have that link in the description down there in the video. And I'll also try to have a card pop up here. If you are on YouTube, I'll have that card pop up so you can just click on that card when that flight test is ready. Anyway, guys, hope you enjoyed that and see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.